Hey everybody, this is Dr. Kim from It's Like This podcast. I know it's been a while and I took a break from podcast recording and life happened and I had to respond to life and just resettle things a little bit, but I'm glad to be back. I am continuing on the topic of parenting, but I wanted to switch it up by inviting my husband, Nathan, and he's also a psychiatrist, so this conversation is going to be very interesting. And in the next few recordings, we're going to be really sharing our heart and life's journey of becoming parents together and what that's been like. So I hope that you can kind of tune in and really share that we're no different. Nathan and I am no different. We have our baggages and struggles and victories and triumphs and growth. So I hope that you can get some encouragement. Before we start, I would like to give a review shout out from Soul Luna Soul. And it says, Dr. Kim knows what she's talking about, y'all. The information that she provides is incredibly helpful and it really makes you think about your own life. Very relatable podcast. Thank you, Dr. Kim. And thank you, Soul Luna Soul, for a wonderful review. And this is exactly what I'm striving for. I want to just share my life, my growth, my journey through these mental health topics, life topics, but just kind of share what I'm learning along the way, especially from a psychiatric perspective. So thank you so much for the review. And if you also enjoy my podcast, it would really help if you can leave a review like Soul Luna Soul, just to share your experience with It's Like This podcast and also share any episodes that you especially liked to anyone who would benefit from this. So without much delay, let's get on with spouse talk with my husband, Nathan. Hi, everybody. Welcome to It's Like This podcast. It's been a while, but I wanted to kind of continue our topic of parenting, but put it in the context of marriage. And I have a special guest, and he's my husband, my best friend, my partner in crime, my frenemy, and all that stuff.
Frenemy.
And Nathan and I have been married for about 9 to 10 years now, right?
10, right?
10, yeah.
10.
Yeah, so we just wanted to kind of share, our thoughts and process of parenting together as a married couple. And there's a lot of contextual difficulties and benefits from that. So without further ado, Nathan, welcome to It's Like This podcast.
Thanks for having me on, Dr. Kim. I finally made it.
Yes, you finally qualified to be my guest.
I passed.
So Nathan, we've been married 9 to 10 years.
10.
This is our 10th year. We're starting our 10th year.
10. Oh, okay. Yeah, 9 to 10. Okay, sure.
And we have 2 kids around the age of 3 to 6. So we're definitely, I wouldn't say intermediate level of parenting.
Getting started.
Yeah, just getting started, but not like freaking out about everything kind of mode, like with our first newborn. So Nathan, tell me, what did you think parenting would be like before we had our first?
That's a good question. I think a lot of what I expected was how my upbringing in childhood was. So I have one older brother. I have my dad and my mom, and a lot of my expectations and thoughts was just kind of how I was raised and how, mom and dad kind of interacted towards me and, both positively and negatively in different ways. And
did you think that it was going to be easy or hard?
I didn't think about that at all. I was like, yeah.
Like, what did you expect? Like, did you have any expectations?
Like kids would just appear.
If you were being honest.
No, I think it was just this general positive goal and idea and something that I knew that I wanted that would satisfy me. But also I think just very superficially kind of saw the, kind of understood the importance of like family and doing things together. And so, no, I don't think I had any specific plans or fears of parenting.
You might find a pattern in the next few episodes that our personalities are going to be pretty evident in how it plays out. Nathan had absolutely no expectations of what parenting would be. He just thought that it will happen and he will just do it.
Maybe I should have my own podcast. Hey, we're gonna talk about this something. We'll figure
Nathan's
it out.
whimsical thoughts in the moment with Nathan. I think for me, my expectation was kind of heavy at first. I kind of grew up as the first of three kids, in a culturally like an immigrant status, right? So a lot of times I kind of had to act more mature than I think my age, and my role in the family due to various contexts, a relationship context. So I had an expectation, oh man, like this is like the most important people to take care of and I have to be XYZ and I have to do all this and I'm very like, research data driven. So, but then I think before kids, I was very insecure on what is authentic and necessary for me versus what other people say that is necessary and authentic to me,
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was just like searching for that perfection in taking care of my kids. So it was pretty heavy,
Yeah. I think too is something, looking back and thinking about it, I think it's something that before it was obviously, you have a heart to be a mother and you wanted kids, but I think there was a little bit aspect of it was something that you had to do and perform well,
Yeah.
and it was almost
It
something,
was like a task
or something external. But I think
Yeah.
as you kind of just went through the motions and physically carried and like raised our kids, right? I think it became something more internal and something that was also a big responsibility and a task and something to do, and but also it became more of a joy and something you just kind of organically and just kind of freely could also enjoy and find kind of like contentment into, and purpose into.
Yeah, and I think and I wouldn't say that parenting in itself made me more free and more secure, but it was me working on myself, getting therapy and getting help and realizing that I could be secure in my own authentic being, versus what other people are saying or not saying, and as I became more comfortable in just being me and that me just being me as a mom may look very different from other moms, what they prioritize. That gave me really freedom of focusing on few things that I can contribute to providing like stability,
Yeah. And I think we're married, 3 years before we got started having kids, and so I think it's a natural process of kind of just finding who we are, as together as a couple, but also I think kind of having kids kind of forced in a way and jump started you yourself to find yourself.
So parenting expectation, you kind of didn't really have a specific expectation, but you knew that it was gonna be another life chapter, right? Like it would open up another chapter. I think for me, parenting expectation was kind of heavy, kind of confused, right? But let's talk about the day that I gave birth and we brought the newborn. Just talk to me about the first moment that you held our first one.
Oh yeah,
that reality hit, right?
Yeah,
like,
I think
what was going on in your mind?
I think when you're pregnant, it doesn't for the guy, right? For the father, it doesn't feel real, and in a way, in a sense, because I'm not carrying the baby, right? I don't feel the baby. Technically, I could see the baby move in your tummy sometimes, or see pictures and stuff, but it didn't feel real until I actually like touched and held. But I think that it kind of just hits you a little bit different, and it's like, wow, like this is a life, right? And something very just the gravity of it hits you, and you're responsible for this life, and just kind of very overwhelming and kind of deep and exciting kind of feeling, I guess, and experience, and definitely it kind of opened up another, I guess, kind of expanded, I think, my heart in a way. And so before we had our first kid, Eugene had an interesting and good idea to write a letter to our first kid
before the baby was born.
Yeah, and I was like, this is weird. Like this is
like you didn't the fact that we were gonna have a baby didn't even hit you. You just saw me grow.
Yeah.
But you were like, okay, like it's just gonna happen.
Sure. So yeah.
But I think I made you do that exercise.
Yeah, we wrote it and stuff, and I don't even remember what we wrote, and we wrote this letter, and we're just like reading it. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever, I'll read this letter that I wrote to this person I don't really know. And so I was reading it,
person
and then
that didn't exist.
Yeah, I read it, and I just started to like choke up. I started to cry, and like I'm very robot, right?
He doesn't cry at all.
It's very hard to sometimes identify or express my emotions and communicate with things, and I just started to cry reading the scene. I was like, "What's going on?"
I was very surprised too.
And it really hit me at an emotional level. My heart and my mind kind of connected. I was like, "Oh, like there's this person, and it's going to be my kid, and I love this person, even though I've never met this person." And so it was just very, very kind of deep experience, I guess.
Yeah, I think there was a similar moment when, I don't know, maybe I was just like so burnt out from training, like when I was pregnant, and it just like really was painful and sucked, and delivery was complicated with the first one. So I think I just kind of went through the motions, and there was just a lot of emotional roller coaster. But I remember had that moment when we were about to have our second child, and I was placing myself in the shoe of my first child. Like, man, you're going to have a sibling, and your world is going to be turned upside down, and you don't have any precedent to even expect and how to share love of parents. And I think I really put myself in like his perspective, and I was like bawling like for days before the second child came, because I was just so empathizing with him. And maybe it was because I'm the first, of my siblings, and I'm like maybe reliving my
and you had like
childhood.
You had like a baby in your body. So.
Yeah. And I remember being worried. Like, I love my first child so much, and how can I even love the second child after it comes? But I think what you said was exactly right. What I felt in my heart after the second child came was, actually, my heart is like a house, and the first child was occupying the first room, but the second room door opened when the second child was born, and I was like, oh, I have a whole room like dedicated to this child, and I can do this.
What was your biggest fear before we even had our first kid? I mean, there's a lot practically and like kind of like emotionally and like philosophically, but like what?
I mean, I don't know. Like, when I'm pregnant, there's like what to expect app and all that stuff. So they expect like, oh, you're gonna be nauseous, first and third trimester, and like I was following by week. But when you actually carry the newborn home, and you actually see how like inadequate he is in sustaining his own life, I think that freaked me out. Like, if I do any little thing, like he could die. Like, that was my fear for the longest time. And I remember I Googled like 20 out of 24 hours in a day. Like, is he gonna die of SIDS? Is he gonna die of viral? Like, I remember my anxiety was like through the roof. The second one, you Google like for the first month. I mean, like he had his own complications too, so we were Googling quite a bit with him. But I think second one, you're like, oh, okay, like we can't like kill him like that easily. So I think there is a little bit of like less anxiety with the second one.
I remember with the first one when it was like the first month, right? And we were, doing night shifts or whatever and taking turns, and I was holding him to sleep, right? And they're like, whatever you do not sleep with your kid or he'll die. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sleep just a little bit. So I was so tired. I was like, I'm closing my eyes for like, just like 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. And so I close my eyes, and then I wake up, and I'm like, ah! And so I look at him, right? And he's not moving.
Yeah, he's not moving.
And I'm like trying to like shake him.
You're basically doing CPR on him.
And he wasn't moving. And I was like, Eugene, like, he's not breathing.
And I was so tired that I remember I couldn't like wake up. You were doing CPR. Like, bed was shaking, and I was so tired. It wasn't that
dramatic.
It was pretty dramatic. But I was so tired that I could not wake up. And I remember I had this thought, like, oh, so this is how my first child is gonna die. I just like accepted it like half asleep.
But it's really scary because it actually happens, right?
Yeah, it does.
And that's why they warn you and stuff. And so like we were freaking out, but fortunately he was just super deep asleep and he woke up.
Yeah,
and
he was probably tired.
everything was okay. But I was, I think that was a time where I was just like, man, like this is hard.
Yeah. So let's kind of fast forward to reality of parenting, right? We had our own expectations when they're newborns. We had these first check of reality, right? And then let's talk about the reality of now raising 2 decently functioning little human beings. They have their own thoughts, own interests and gifts and strengths and weaknesses. So what is parenting like for you now?
I think at first it was doing what I knew and what I experienced, but then kind of seeing how over time, like it was okay, but it wasn't like enough. Like kids still needed more, right? And
you didn't think that kids needed, but now when they're older and as you're changing and growing, you're like, oh, wow, like this is actually really important for the kids.
I think because we have 2 boys, right? I think part of it is like, it's a slow chipping away of kind of just this cultural, like boys are boys, boys need to be tough, right?
Yeah.
We need to just rough and tumble and just do a bunch of stuff. And so I think over the years, that's been an important piece of how we interact and we play and connect, but also appreciating how they, just because they're boys, they also have a deep need for themselves, but also just to grow as men, to really develop and grow in their kind of emotional, caring, feeling aspect of themselves, and so I think as I kind of started to focus more on that in my own life, I realized how important it is for them to grow in that area and that aspect of their life as well.
Yeah. As I'm growing, and I don't even know, but I think I was raised in unintentionally, probably indirectly, very performance-based kind of sense of worth, like what you produce and what you do and how you act, how you behave. That was kind of how you want respect, you want power, you want authority, and as I'm growing up and how that's so not true. And it's changing me to not think of our marriage as a performance, to measure in a performance thing, not to measure my parenting and how well, quote unquote, I'm parenting as a performance, but really focusing on, hey, like we're beings, and more focusing on observing and getting to know my kids as who they are and building connections. Like that's my job as a parent. My job is not to make them well-behaved kids at school, or not throw a fit in the grocery aisles. Like that's secondary, but my primary role as a mom is to see them for who they are and really celebrate and nurture their own individual growth, at whatever pace that they grow, and I kind of have to apply that. I had to apply that to myself, is accepting myself as who I am right now versus what I could be, what I should be, or what I would be if I didn't do this, that all that stuff is just like, well, today I'm this, so I'm accepting myself for who I am right now and what I can do right now.
Yeah, I think both of us culturally, right, there's a tendency to focus on goals and accomplishing things and doing things, right? And there's this book that Eugene helped me find that I recommended. And
shout out.
It was really good. It's really good, but there's a part in there where it talks about, there's a phrase that says, we are human beings first, not human doings, right? And I think that often, right, we can focus on get our value and our worth and our identity in what we do or what we accomplish, right? Like we were saying, and but it's really more about internally being grounded and over time and through life finding that identity and purpose. And then once and out of that, that's how you work. That's how you interact with people. That's how you go forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Family really becomes, after you have kids, it's like microcosm of 4 broken people and you're learning to coexist, but at the same time, like celebrate and do life together. And a lot of times what I think I had was I had a goal in mind for myself and how I wanted my family to be in like 5-10 years. And you being yourself and our kids being themselves got in the way of my goal. And that was really challenging and frustrating because I'm a very goal-oriented person. But once I let go of that goal and told myself, well, if you were completely alone and living this life, yeah, you could achieve those goals. But given that you have 3 other people, those goals are going to change and it's going to be shaped by who they are as well. And you're going to envision different goals. Then when I surrendered that, it became less frustrating because it's like, oh, we're going to create something beautiful together. I don't know what it looks like yet. I don't even have benchmark, or sense of progress, but it's going to be something beautiful as we're focusing on being together than doing things together.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's like before we got married, right, we're 2 different people. And as we got married, right, we're moving towards each other and learning from each other and realizing how we complement each other and help each other. And we also challenge each other in our own weaknesses, right? And so I think, to what you said, I think for me, I'm very naturally good and lean towards like being present, at least physically and doing stuff. And I think over the years, being more present emotionally, right, and communicative, right. But I think that's my natural kind of. It's easier for me to be present, right. But learning from you, right, and I'm learning that it's also equally important and good and healthy to have that balance where I'm very forward thinking, I'm very planning, right, whether it's that logistically or just thinking forward about what are the needs and wants and kind of life kind of benchmarks or milestones that you or the boys us as a family, right, are gonna have to kind of meet together and do together, and how can we kind of prepare for that, right? And so I think I'm really learning that from you, and that's, I think, for sure is one of your strengths.
Wow, it was so much fun. Initially kind of awkward to record with my husband, but it was just like a really beautiful time for both of us to just sit down without kids to just look back and celebrate how much we have changed as an individual, as a couple, and as parents. And thank you for listening. I hope that this episode kind of gave you hope. I hope that it gave you some laughter. And I want to invite you to continue to listen to the next few episodes. Nathan and I'm going to be talking about, how marriage and parenting kind of work synergistically. So I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Have a great day.